Hello, Z here. So, what I'm going to do for this video is go over my thoughts of Elden Ring. I've finally beaten, I think, almost everything in the game, with one section that I did not beat because, well, I'll get into it during the course of the video, but I wrote up something so that I could have concise thoughts, which is not what I usually do, but it's what I'm going to do for here. So I'm gonna break it down to pros and cons. I'll have an overall for each section, and yeah, the cons is gonna be much longer than the pros because I think the pros of the game are very obvious, while the cons might be a bit more complex in matter. So, also, quick warning: this is going to contain spoilers, so if you have not beaten as much of the game as you want to, then I would not listen to this because there are going to be many, many, many spoilers within this. So, alright, so here we go. First off, it's a beautiful game. The whole game looks like a giant painting. Specifically, Lenaria the Lakes, when you go to the lake-facing cliffs, Grace, and you just look upon the whole world ahead of you. Everything, right? It's just... it's beautiful, right? Some of the bosses are beautiful in design. Malekith, personally, is my favorite as far as design goes. He just looks so cool, jumping around the entire stage, doing all of his tricks and shit. Yeah, it's just a... whoever the art team is for FromSoft, they deserve as much praise as you can give, so... Next, the game feels pretty good to play for the most part. You know, typical Souls combat, stamina-based, dodging and blocking, attacks at certain key points that are heavy attacks. The inclusion of the jumping into combat, is very, very welcome and refreshing. Having the, you know, with me being a old school Souls player, played since Demon Souls on PS3, right? So it's it feels pretty good to play usually. The exception to that is roll spamming. I'm gonna get into that later. I will get into that later, but I don't like how they're doing dodging at this point in time. Next, we have the themes and concepts are very well thought out. I think Ronnie's questline and the things that it puts in particular are very interesting. You can tell that George R.R. Martin had at least some part in this in the writing. There are a lot of recycled things, you know, from all their games. Specifically Evergrace, a game about, well, it's not about it, but, you know, features a giant tree worshipped, you know. Elden Ring is basically a mishmash of every game they've created to date about. And then some new stuff on top of it, right? Next is the magic. I don't really have too much to say about it. Magic is good, finally. Except for Dark Souls 2. It was good there too, but, you know. Magic is really, really, really good, and it looks really good. So... that's all I gotta say on that one. The open world is enjoyable, beautiful, relaxing, usually. And when you discover something new, like a dungeon, or even something environmental, like a pack of wolves attacking a rune bear, or a full-out battle between soldiers and beastmen, you know, there's just things to see that make the world feel alive and breathing and great, right? That is a very good open world, especially for their first attempt. It is really good. The game has a lot of content. I don't know how this game... they must have had a huge budget because there is so much stuff to do. There's so many areas that you can go to. A lot of them are optional too, even at that. That's why I'm not even sure if I did everything. I think I did without looking everything up because I didn't want to look shit up, you know. There's just so many dungeons, so many castles to go to, so many caves, so many catacombs, so many bosses, weapons, armor, magic. It's amazing. I don't know how, and I praise them for it because there are so many games these days that don't put in enough shit and they want your $60. Battlefield. Really all EA shit. The build varieties are fairly good, I would say. There's a lot of ways that you can build your character. Especially with the emphasis of some of the talismans. Like, there's definitely a caveat here, but I'll just give it as an example. Like, bleed builds. You can finally make, like, a really dedicated bleed build that's really strong. Rot poison. There's many different ways to play the game. And also, you know, pure magic, since it's very good now. But, however, one of the ways that I want to play the game is not very good at all. Bows are horrible. Crossbows still don't scale. Crossbows still don't fucking scale. Bows, for the most part, suck. I mean, they can be... They're useful. They're more like tools rather than weapons for grabbing aggro or getting a nice chunk of health down on someone from a long-range snipe. But they just don't have the tracking that would make them more useful. They lock it to a weapon art called Enchanted Arrow, where it hones in on the target, and even that, you have to go through the whole animation of Mighty Shot and use FP. I just think if they want to make bows good, just fucking give it tracking by default. They did it in Dark Souls 1. Why would you nerf a weapon that already wasn't very good? They just made bows worse. Except for the moveset of some of them. The short bows in particular can be a bit more good in close quarter because you can do 2 shots when you're jumping. Well, you know, a jumping shot and then a follow-up shot. And then you can roll shot, and whatever. It's still not... It's no real way to play the game. Next up, bosses. The bosses are good. I say that lightly because it's another thing that I want to bring up in the cons section. Bosses, at least, I would say 98% of the bosses look phenomenal. There are some recycled bosses. It doesn't bug me, but they don't look great because they're just enemies, blah, 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 whatever. But yeah, I'll save that for the con section because there is something I really want to say about bosses that I really don't like, but visually and sometimes gameplay-wise, they're really good. Goes without saying, I guess. So overall, bringing it to the end of the pros section here. The game is phenomenal in the way that the world is presented and interacted with through exploration. The combat is very satisfying, I would say, for the most part. You know, you have the build varieties there. The bosses aren't always horribly annoying. Generally, they turn out to be fun, and like I said earlier, they are at least visually interesting for the most part. And some of them are mentally interesting, you know? So, yeah, here's the cons part, and this is going to be much longer, much more ranty, and I'm sure I'll go off topic many times because there's very many things I have to say about Elden Ring that I don't like. But first, I want to say that I do like the game. I like the game. I do. So, cons. Enemies and bosses can be fucking ridiculous. The range of their attacks completely neglect the idea of spacing that was so heavy in Dark Souls 1. You have enemies that will do a huge lunging attack all the way across the arena and then do a flail attack on you, right? And because FromSoft knows that their players now have probably learned how to dodge, they added in delayed attacks, which doesn't bother me necessarily because, yes, I agree, you know, for someone like me, I know how to dodge attacks, right? I played the games forever. So I can kind of get on with that, but it's just like every attack starts to have a delay, and sometimes they happen, sometimes they don't. I've had a couple instances where an attack that would usually be delayed is not. So it just kind of ends up feeling like the game wants to hit me, and it's going to. For instance, one of the god skins, the fat one with the rapier, he has a particular attack where he inflates and begins to roll sideways in a huge, you know, directly towards you. If you dodge the attack, it doesn't really matter because he'll turn around and he might start circling around you, and he will do it for a solid fucking minute and then stop. But he's just gonna keep going towards you over and over and over, and he will just not stop fucking chasing you with that shit until it hits you. The game wants to hit you. It's going to fucking hit you unless you manage to somehow let the thing fucking go around you in circles. You know, and there's a boss where you have to fight 2 of the motherfuckers, and it's just so frustrating when he does that shit, and then the other fucking gods can come in and beat your ass while you're trying not to get hit by this big motherfucker going in circles. Whatever. You know, there's some spacing issues with the game. Not some. There's some severe spacing issues. I think one of the best examples of Dark Souls being good with spacing is actually with the boss that has the most ridiculous lunges, which is Ornstein. You can actually judge where Ornstein is going to stop his dashing attack, right? You can outspace him because not all of his attacks are those dashes. He has plenty where he just does a simple step forward and thrusts his spear at you, and if you know the game, you learn the boss, you can outspace it and then go in for your attack. Whereas in Elden Ring, you'll outspace an attack and then 50 more coming at you, and you just have to roll spam, roll spam, roll spam. Oh, don't roll spam here. Delayed attack. You know, I just don't like it. I don't like the hyper aggressive action-y combat that they're going for now. Sorry, I start ranting. Okay. Where's that at? Turns into running away 30 meters hoping they won't hit you. They usually do hit you, and then flail attack on you. Yeah. The end game is kind of boring. Gameplay-wise, visually, it's pretty good, except Mountain of the Giants. Mountain of the Giants is very boring visually. It's just a big uphill, snowy area. Not really a whole lot to see. Farum is really good. The Halig tree is really nice. Yeah, there's some very visually interesting endgame areas, but they're just ruined by the... Yeah, let me just keep going. Max level characters are expected to deal with enemies or bosses that will 3-shot you or less. Yes. The amount of damage and the amount of attacks that these people do make the game very not fun to me. It feels more like I'm playing a rhythm game. It feels more like I'm playing a rhythm game like Osu, rather than some kind of really heavy action RPG. It just turns the game into a frustrating, unfun situation where you get hit by something that's quite obviously bullshit, and oop, you died. Try and figure out a way to not get hit by that. Okay, I figured it out. Here's another move that... Ooh, it's just, it's a fucking ooh, clutter of fucking attacks and big damage and blah blah blah. It's not. I don't like it at all. Everything past Lindell to me just sucks, gameplay wise. Even though I think some of them are beautiful areas, like Farum. It's one of the most beautiful areas in the game. It's just, here's 80 enemies that spam you with attacks. It just feels like a brick wall, and you have to sledge through it, or slog through it, whatever. It just becomes a very quick way to hate the game. PvP is awful. It's awful. PvP is so bad. Because of how extreme the game goes with damage dealt and received, any PvP past like level 80 really turns into like, ooh, what's the weapon with the most bullshit weapon art? Oh, Rivers of Blood, or Moonveil, or Mog's Spear. Oh, okay, I'll just run up on him and do that. Especially with like a dual katana bleed build. Also Waterfall, whatever that shit was called, Waterfowl Dance. I'll just run up on them and do a weapon art and do all their health in one hit. It's just not. I don't know who thought this shit was gonna work. They shouldn't have even put PvP in the game. Co-op, sure. PvP, what's the point? I don't get it. Casters are also, they can be sufficiently annoying with their ability to back up and just destroy you with 80 huge fucking glintstone. It's a shower of glintstone orbs coming down from the sky to just, woo, you're dead. It's just whatever. Some playstyles are actually really poorly balanced. Yeah, I'll pretty much anything that isn't dual katana bleed build, Scarlet Rot and Runaway, or pure magic, because you can and magic. I'll say with a caveat here, magic, you're usually not going to be very tanky. My character had 60 fucking vigor and pretty heavy armor, right? And I was still taking massive amounts of damage. So you're probably not going to have that as a magic character. You're probably going to be pretty squishy, so you kind of deserve to be able to run away and do big damage. But it's still much better than doing some kind of melee build, in my opinion, because you just don't do enough damage with melee unless you have bleed or rot. Slow strength weapons in particular are very hard to deal with using, because while they do good damage, real good damage, they do good poise, you know, those jumping heavy attacks, knock someone on their ass. But because the way that the game is earlier, you know, flail attack, lunge attack, blah blah blah, whoop your ass 3 shots, trying to get those hits off, oh, it's just not a fun experience. You know, and especially with poise not really being, you know, it's another Dark Souls game with not real poise. You know, you have the poise when you're attacking, which used to just be called hyper armor. No, that's when your poise comes into play. So, deal with it, I guess. You know, I guess that's their philosophy. Deal with it. Okay, I'll have not any fun doing this playstyle. It's, yeah, but, I mean, strength weapons are definitely doable. They're just not nearly going to be as good as other playstyles. And in my personal first attempt at a build, I did a bow and a single curved sword, because I like having that range, and I like having my melee, no shield, no magic, not into it. This is my first character on my personal save, not on my not my playthrough. I know I had magic on that one, but yeah, I would never do it again. I ended up dipping back into magic and then getting a straight sword that dealt some magic damage as well. Faith. Yeah, it works a lot better. And like I was saying earlier, duo bosses tend to just be unfun experiences. You know, Now you have 2 people full lunging at you and flailing attacks on you. Isn't that great? Now you have 2 of them doing it to you. How much S's do you have again? Oh, only 12? Well, that's too fucking bad. Oh, your Estus flask is maxed out as far as how much health you can get back? You gotta drink 2 of them to get all your health back? Well, let me just run up and do 1/3 of your fucking health right now. And do it 8 times in a row. Ain't that motherfucking fun? No. So, overall, I personally don't think I'm going to buy the next From Software game. If it's even close to Elden Ring. Basically, I don't think I'm dipping back into their Souls games. It's clear that they're intentionally trying to make the game hard or difficult, artificial difficulty, rather than it just being a byproduct of traditional RPG gameplay mechanics. You know, I don't think anybody is saying like Baldur's Gate is the hardest game, but if you play Baldur's Gate and you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna get stomped, as an example. So that to me was what Dark Souls 1 was like. Now they just want to go over anime, hyper aggressive, big explosion, whatever, you know. That's just the kind of game it's become because of all the hype, and I think Bloodborne in particular kind of put the nail in that coffin. Everybody love Bloodborne. Let's make all our games as fast and as aggressive as Bloodborne. Ooh, thank you. I would rather have my original Dark Souls, personally. Yeah, where was I going? Bosses in the late game and even sometimes in the early game boil down to roll spamming out of lightning quick combos and then getting hit by a move that that launched said boss across the stage. Millennia, perfect example of that. Not only does she have the quickest attacks of any boss I think in the game, she gets health back every time she hits you. So she does that full attack combo I was saying earlier where you just, oh, I got hit like a fucking million times. Probably not that, probably like twice. Almost all my health is gone, let me back up. Oh, I dodged her lunge across the stage, that's good. Now I'm full health. Oh, she hit me? Oh, her health's all the way back now. Oh, that's fun. I love that. Who would love that? That's not fucking fun. It's just pointlessly difficult because they had to make a difficult game. I just don't understand the point of it. Most of those bosses become a mind-numbing experience, and once you've learned a boss and run it for the 20th time just to get one shot by a particularly hard move to dodge. Waterfall dance. And that one shots you, by the way. You know, it's just not fun. Elden Ring is the best game that I never want to play again. And that's kind of odd coming from an old school Elden Ring player, or Elden Ring, Souls player, right? I think I even talked about this in previous videos before Elden Ring was released, looking at the game like, oh, it looks like they're gonna go super actiony, because I was playing Kingsfield. I was playing through some Kingsfield at the time. I was like, oh, dude, I love how like slow and weighty and the pace is just right, man. But now people's like, oh, that's too slow. I'm bored. Let's play something else. Play fucking COD. And yeah, I was like, oh, it looks a little actiony. Elden Ring is probably gonna be good. It is. But it looks a little actiony. What I didn't think they were gonna do was make it just pointlessly hard too. It's by far the hardest like Souls game they've ever released. And yeah, I don't want to be around for the next one if that's where they're gonna keep going. I don't. It's just, it stopped being fun to me. I was gonna say this earlier. There's one area that I did not go through. Well, I tried to go through it a little bit, and I just stopped. So I was like, I just don't want to play the game anymore. It just got so... Like, I just don't care enough. They're probably gonna throw another boss at me that's gonna be exactly like ridiculously high damage, crazy all around the stage in 3 seconds. And I don't, it's not fun enough for me to want to keep dealing with. And I like challenge. That just comes down to, like, I don't know. Like, the challenge is almost so intense that it becomes mind-numbing. Which is ironic, because games that are too easy are mind-numbing. But now they've gone so far into challenging that it has again become mind-numbing. I don't get it. Like, they had the perfect amount of challenge and strategic play and everything in Dark Souls 1. It's why everybody loves Dark Souls 1. But then they've gone so far with Elden Ring, it has once again become mind-numbing. Oh, shit. I say that, you know, everything after Lindell Capital. Everything up to Lindell, progression-wise, fantastic. Stormvale is cool. Limgrave, Gelmir, Mount Gelmir, Atlas Plateau, Lindell Capital, all the dungeons and places that it includes. But it's just places like Farum. While it has one of the coolest bosses, Malekith, not a fun area to go through. Fucking Mountain of the Giants. Really, there's not enough for me to complain about with that, except for the fire giant, who just rolls away. He's not even a hard boss. He's just really annoying because he rolls away all the time. Being a melee player, it's like hard to hit him, especially with his huge damage when you try to hit him and he rolls right the fuck over you and it hits you 3 times because the game is bugged. Or I don't know. If that's intentional, that's stupid. I assume it's bugged. And then, you know, Haligtree is ugh. And the bleed area, the final boss, Mog, is just ugh. Yeah, I'm just thinking about all these areas. I'm just like, no, I don't. I'm gonna uninstall Elden Ring. Actually, I don't want to play this game ever again. Ugh. I'd rather play Dark Souls 1. Oof. Okay. So, yeah, Elden Ring is a great game, in my opinion, until you get to the end game, and then it's just so annoying and frustrating and not fun that oh god, it's so not fun that I don't want to play the game ever again. So there you go. Got really off topic and ranty, but that's how it goes. I don't do professionalism. I just do what I do. So there you go. It's all my opinion. Obviously, I'm not saying Elden Ring's a bad game. I'm just saying that it's a bad game. that's kind of what I said, huh? It's kind of a bad game at the end. But again, that's my opinion, so take it as you will. Bye-bye now. I don't have anything more to say. Yeah. Bye-bye.
I have a autism, Daddy.